Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hello, my friends. It's quite windy here on the roof right now. I hope it doesn't make too much troubles with the sound. Always have to find the direction that the wind comes from the back of the microphone. So I hope it's working. It's good to remember why we are here, why we are in this world, why we have taken on this human form. It's good to remember that this is a great opportunity, an opportunity to dive deeper into one's own resources, to connect with the essence in spite of having the experience of being human and the whole story that comes along with it. It's so easy to get totally absorbed in the little details of the day-to-day life, making big stories out of little things, thereby completely forgetting the purpose why we are here. Recently, I talked to somebody and we came to talk about the situation in the world, what's going on, and I was telling some of my views, and it's not too rosy, but I see what's going on. And that person asked, but how can you be so relaxed about telling this in such a relaxed way? Why? Because I know why I'm here. Because I know why everybody is here. This is the main importance that we remember. Every situation is a challenge. It's a possibility to become more self-aware. Previous, when I started out with meditating a lot, I had that goal. I was driven by the idea of reaching a goal. Eventually, that goal idea disappeared. And the goal is just to be in the present, in that timelessness, and make every situation into an opportunity to let the consciousness expand, get richer, essentially remaining the same, and yet the experience is expanding. So that idea that I had, I have to struggle, I have to struggle, I have to struggle, and eventually I will reach the goal, and that is the purpose, has changed. I guess it was good for me to have that idea, to be driven like this, just to keep that alertness. But it's also a painful business as long as we are driven like this. And it need not be like that. We can learn to go about it quite playfully. And not so much for forming ideas what exactly we should reach, but simply remember we are here to learn to be in touch with the essence, no matter what is happening. And then every situation is contributing, every situation is enriching. It's not a particular goal, but the goal is to be here now. The goal is to make the best out of our life, out of that possibility, out of that miraculous existence as a human with a body connected with life, with consciousness, with the energy of life, with love, experiencing all the emotions, being able to think, and at the same time learn to be aware that there is always the basic ground, totally unconcerned. And if we have that awareness, then we can see things that are not working in a nice way and still be relaxed. Because we know nothing is for nothing. Nothing is wasted. Whatever people are going through in this world, it is enriching. Simply as long as we are going through it unaware, half asleep, it's usually a painful business and very slow. If we go about it consciously, alert, aware what is important, then we can go about it joyously, playfully, and every moment is much more powerful. We are making much better use of that opportunity of being here, of appearing as a human, knowing that the essence is not merely human, but way beyond, timeless, spaceless. Now Marie writes me, after I have said the last week, what was the thing about? Anyhow, it brought her, it's just now disappeared from my mind, but it brought her to that idea of being driven, of having that fixed idea of having a purpose in this life. Right, basically that's that, but I don't like the language anymore so much. Driven for me has that flavor of being in pain, of being in tensions, of being afraid, of missing. We don't have to have that attitude. We can very well go about it playfully. Now she said there is also some confusion that on the other hand, it said all is grace. Everything is already that. Then sometimes there is a bit of confusion in the mind. Why should we at all give attention? If already everything is that, it doesn't matter. Whatever is happening in this life, it's still that. Of course, essentially, it's not something that we have to become. There is no way that we can make an effort to become what we are. You are that all the time. But there is no contradiction in what I have said before. And what the traditional teaching is basically always saying, it's worth the trouble to bring the attention back to the essence. Even if you are that, we have forgotten about it. And then the attention is caught up in the little stories, identifying with a person, feeling separate, feeling pain, suffering. All that is not for nothing, as I said, but it's a painful, slow story. It's worth the trouble to wake up from that slumber. It's worth the trouble to remind ourselves, hey, don't get caught up in that. Bring the attention back to that which makes the experience possible. Here, now, timelessly. Again and again until it's simply sticking, until it's natural. It is natural, but we have learned to be unnatural. And so it is perfectly in tune that we make an effort to remind ourselves, to be alert, to connect, not to waste our time, to be so totally concerned about the little turns left and right in our story, and not even to be over concerned what is happening in the world. Doesn't mean we have to close our eyes and play dumb. We can very well see what's going on, but at the same time, we can also know the best contribution that we can possibly make is to live our life awake. That is having an influence on the general consciousness, on the collective mind. It's not our duty to feel depressed and terrible when we say terrible things. From our education, we may feel it's like it's our sacred duty to be terribly concerned and feel bad about it. But all we are doing when we are doing that is adding more negativity. If we are capable of remembering why we are here, then we remember also why all the other people are here. And once we remember that, that knowledge is there, that people are not going in vain through all this trouble. If they were awake, they wouldn't suffer. But since they are not awake, they suffer. But it's not in vain, and very few people are ready to hear that. People who don't want to hear it, so they will have to go through their story and learn their lessons in their own way. But it's not in vain. We can, wherever we have the possibility, influence things externally. The main importance is that our attention is rooted in the essence. The more we are doing that, the more something beautiful is flowing through you also on this material level and bringing a creative, harmonious, joyous energy into it. So our sacred duty is not to feel bad about what is happening in our personal life or in the whole world. Our sacred duty is to be in our natural, joyous, happy, creative, beautiful state as good as we can. the more we are remembering the purpose why we are here, the easier it becomes to go about it playfully, not to take the story so serious, no matter what is happening. Okay, and then there is Mariano, who has been asking something. What's that? How to be honest with ourselves, because often I'm saying that we have to learn to be honest. It should be natural, because if we are dishonest with ourselves, immediately attention is there. An unnatural tension. And it's natural to remove that tension and to be honest with ourselves, but somehow we have grown up in a world and identified with that story in such a way that we have become unnatural and we have to learn again to be honest. And how can we know that we are honest? And not the question of Mariana is, how can we know that we are honest and that we are not telling stories to ourselves? Because it's so easy in the mind to justify anything, even if deep down we should know better. How can we distinguish whether it's really genuine knowledge that comes from the heart that gives us a direction, or if we're pushing that away and just arguing in the mind to push in another direction because it appears to be more appealing? The way to come closer to that honesty is to intend sincerely that I want to be honest. As I said, it should be natural. And as we have learned to be unnatural, it's like we have to learn something new. And we just sincerely intend it again and again. And if that intention is sincere, then more and more I catch myself, come on, don't tell stories in your mind. Deep down in your heart, you know perfectly well where it's going along. Because if we deviate from that, immediately tensions are starting, and if we are observative and honest, we can feel them. There is not a miracle cure I can give you, Mariano, that you do this and then from then on you are sure that it's always really coming from your essence and is not being manipulated by the mind. But if you are sincerely intending to be honest, to listen to yourself, and if the mind tries to pull your attention away, the old habit of the personality pulls your attention in another direction, you become gradually more and more quickly aware of it. And when you become aware of it, consequently drop that false pull and come back to that which you feel profoundly is right. Practice helps. Daily practice gives insight. If we have daily some time where we are doing nothing else but to be quiet, to connect as good as we can, we're becoming more subtly aware. And in that increased subtlety, we can easier distinguish whether an inner voice is really genuinely coming from the heart, from the essence, or whether we are just playing tricks in the mind. Just intend to become aware, intend to be honest, intend to be alert, and have the courage and the consequence that whenever you become aware how actually you are just playing tricks in the mind because you don't really want to listen to what comes from the heart, that you learn to follow the heart in spite of that. If you do that, then it's getting easier and easier until it's again, as it should be, totally natural. Okay, I leave that subject also. And I'm asking you, my friends, is there anybody who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hi, Werner. It's Ravi.
Hello, Ravi.
So I've got a couple of questions.
You're welcome.
Actually, one thing I wanted to say is that you talk a lot about breathing to relax consciously, and I found, and you suggested I do that with my mantra practice.
Yes.
And I found it really profoundly. It's really good. It's been really helpful. It's made a real difference. I certainly go deeper. So. Yeah, thank you for that.
To hear.
And when I say mantra,
happy to hear that.
So two things. One is so I have lots of photos of Amma around my room, and I'm very devoted to her, and maybe guru. Yeah, well, she's on my mind every day. So I would call her my guru, I guess. Not that I formally tell people that. Before I met Amma, I met another self-realized saint, and I've been practicing his meditation technique for years. Even when I do Amma's meditation practice, some of hers, I still do one of his every day.
Yes.
And when I've spoken to a devotee of Amma, said to me, listen, if you really want to be devoted to Amma, you should get rid of his meditation practice. And then a devotee of the other organization said, listen, you have to choose between.
Yeah.
I don't know. It doesn't really make a difference if I'm mixing techniques, and yeah.
Right. And I totally agree with you. In this case, I have been talking before now all the time about listening to your heart. And in this case, listen to your heart and not to what people telling you. Or even if somebody tells you, you can check, does it feel right? And if you feel, no, it doesn't feel right for me, then you listen to what is coming from you. It doesn't matter at all if you bring, even if you consider Amma as your guru now, and you bring a technique in that you have learned before, there is absolutely no contradiction that you're connecting with Amma and doing that technique also. The technique is just a crutch for the mind. It's not that one technique is right, the other technique is wrong. and they are at war with each other. If for you it is natural and not a contradiction, not a problem in the mind to fuse techniques, then this is perfectly valid.
Great, thank you. So the other thing is I mean, I've been doing jumper since I got my mantra through Amma many years ago, but I haven't formally been doing a sitting meditation using Amma's mantra. And in the last couple of years, I learnt a mantra, a technique using the mantra, and we were advised at the time with the last word of the mantra to that the word itself, I believe, meant surrender, namaha. So we should say it with the bhavana, or the attitude of not mine, everything is yours, as you say the word. And I just wanted to know if you can offer any suggestions, because I haven't really been, I mean, I'd like to contact that teacher, but it will take a while to contact them. And I've put in a question a long time ago, but I still, the answer I got wasn't helpful enough for me to kind of work out what to do. I find that when I, just before, when I say the last word of the mantra, at the same time, I'm saying, not mine, it's all yours. And I'm doing both at the same time, the English and the mantra word. And there is some effort there. And I don't know if that's the easiest way to do it. And yeah, how to evoke that feeling of not mine, it's all yours. Essentially, what we were told is it means it's the essence of it is surrender. Wondering if you can offer some ideas.
You can do mantra practice in very different ways. And if you do it in the mood of the devotee, the mantra is a way to connect with divinity in whatever way one conceives of divinity. And then it's not simply that you have to think the last word should tell that you make an effort to surrender, but basically the whole mantra practice is letting go of holding on to as a me personality and giving it to the divine. So you don't need to necessarily say also the English word. If it helps you, you can, but you don't have to. Just you can very well just have that attitude of, after all, everything is that same divinity. So, and that whole me separate personality is a momentary appearance, and I have to learn not to hold on and fix my attention to that. That is the surrender. And if you do the mantra practice with that attitude, you are already doing your surrender as good as you can. Then the full surrender is something that you cannot do. It's happening. But you can make yourself available by consciously letting go, consciously giving up. And that letting go can go in different ways. One way is with the attitude of the devotee who just gives over everything to God.
So, so if I say the mantra with the, as a different example, the attitude of, it's almost the attitude of every word I'm saying is sacred, so I'm going to give each word my full attention as best as I can. Try to be very, yeah, is sacred. So it's to honor it by being present to it. That's one attitude. Is that right? It's not something that I need to think about continuously. I'm just saying it with that attitude, and that's how I'm practicing while I'm doing.
Right.
So got it. So you're suggesting, and that is also, I guess, an extension of that is that the attitude. Can you, sorry, Werner, can you just one more time suggest the attitude that you were mentioning before again?
Right. What you are doing is very nice. You say the mantra with alertness, with concentration, with awareness that every word is sacred. So actually, by saying the mantra, by chanting the mantra, you are already connecting, opening your heart to the divinity. And that is the only attitude that you need. It's not that you have to do some extra acrobatics in your mind. Just keep that openness of the heart, and by doing the mantra with the attitude that you are touching something sacred is basically already all the surrender that you need to do.
Thank you. Thanks, Werner. I'm finding more and more on this path that it's a lot simpler than it's a lot simpler than I make it, and the growth seems to be more in just relaxing and keeping it simple, because and following my heart. So
right.
Yeah, thank you for affirming that.
Definitely. We have the tendency to think we should do it better, and have the tendency because of that to make it more complicated, and instead of being helpful, it's more of a burden. But if we have that innocence, that we are capable of going about it in a simple way, this is the most powerful way. I wish you well.
Thank you. Hari Om. Thank
Hari
you.
Om. Hari Om. Okay. Is there anybody else who would like to come in? You're welcome.
Hello.
Hello, Leora.
I have one question, or maybe two, in relation to what you spoke before, and then also I came with a question. The two questions are easy, I think. One of them is, when you use the expression "in vain," I'm not sure what it means.
It means it's not that we are wasting our time. It's not for nothing.
It's not for nothing. Okay.
Yes.
And then when you say the essence,
yes,
I think you've mentioned it so often, and yet I'm not sure I know what is the essence.
You are the essence.
You are the essence. Yeah. Okay.
God is the essence. We can call the essence God. We can call the essence the self. We can call the essence divinity. We can call it the beyond that, which is whatever. It's that which makes your experience possible. It's that because of which we are capable of talking with each other.
Yeah. And now the question, thank you for that. Question I came with is something about habits. I've been watching my habits because I'm living in this way of awareness and like not automatically do whatever. Also because I feel I'm aging, and I feel I need to be a bit careful to develop my way through, not to be addicted to habits and opinions, also mainly opinions, and do some work to connect to my inner wisdom and life experience. So one of the biggest habits is to negotiate with different voices in my head about things I do as habits. And I like many of my habits support my everyday life in a good way, and some less. So where I have to look into and maybe create a change. And yeah, the point is about opinions, other opinions about habits. Like I remember I spoke a year ago maybe about using sleeping pills, or maybe also painkillers. So I feel that all the time I hold, let's say, these two issues, I hold it in my hands and I negotiate with my needs, with my life story, with my possibilities as a human being, as my history, my difficulties, and to not fall into the voices of opinions, of the influence of opinions. And also, there is so much to read about it, and people come with very, very strict and intelligent people, and so on. So I think you understand what I'm saying. So.
Yes. So now you wonder what to do with it.
I think I know what to do with it. I just need like, I think I'm doing the right thing altogether, because let's say, if I look at the struggle of not being able to sleep or wake up after 4 hours of sleeping, and what it does to me, and I take my decisions or pains. Specifically with pains, I feel that if I don't take a painkiller, sometimes when the pain is really hurting and like stubborn, then the whole system and the brain start dealing with it, and then it becomes more and more, and it becomes like maybe another day. Sometimes I take a painkiller and it goes. Of course, fortunately, it doesn't happen every day, not every week. So, but I have my issues. So I think I know what to do with it, I must admit, but I just would like to hear your voice about it.
Right. Habits are not basically just bad. It's good to watch your habits. It's good that you think, I don't want to age and get more and more crystallized and just function by way of habit without being alert. Be alert, watch your habits, and there you will find habits of which you think they are not harmful in any way, so I don't need to do something about it. And then there are habits you feel, if I'm following that habitual pattern, as I know perfectly well, invariably, it always leads to unnecessary tensions, and I can learn not to do that anymore. So that alertness is necessary, and then again, the honesty, that you are honest with yourself, that you listen really what you deep down feel is right. And then that is the right thing. And of course, you mentioned all the people with their opinions, which often are very, very strict on a line. This is right and this is wrong. And if somebody comes like this, you can check against your own inner feeling. And if it resonates, then maybe they have given you a good pointer. But if you feel, okay, they have theoretically their right to talk like this, but basically it has nothing to do with your situation and your story, then you need not get worried about all that. It comes, it goes.
Yeah, I don't talk to people anymore about those things about myself. I take my own decisions, but sometimes people share and like there's a discussion, and
Yes.
then I hear this is not good to do, and so on. So, so I feel I'm in a good place with that.
Right.
But I've noticed it's like a whole field. A whole field in my life to keep searching and keep looking into.
Sure, it's good to remain alert because we have formed many more habits than we think, and some of them they are quite subtle. And so if you keep that alertness, you become more and more aware that a lot of stuff that you were not even aware actually are being pushed by habits. And there you can always then distinguish, oh, it doesn't matter because this is nothing harmful, so let it be so. Or you can decide at this time that something there is being changed, because it's not a harmonious way of dealing with things. So I can change a habit, even if it's a long ingrained habit.
Yeah.
As I said in the discussion to Mariano, we just have to be honest, intend to be honest with ourselves. And then we can distinguish what really comes from the essence, from your heart, that from there you know what is true for you. And then we are not getting waylaid by all the activities of the mind and the justifications, sometimes against what we deep down feel in the heart.
Yeah, one thing is also to look behind the habit, to look, like, as you say, honesty, to see what's behind it. What is it serving? What need is it serving? And sometimes, often I see that there is not really a need there, but it sits, sometimes it sits on restlessness or on some kind of emotion that is not really connected with the thing that I want to do, or it will not change the emotion. It will not make me feel better.
Basically, it's very simple. When you see that there are habits that pull your attention away from yourself, then it's better to do something about it. And if there are habits that are not disturbing your harmony, then you don't need to worry about them.
Yeah. Okay, that was a good summary.
Shall
Yeah.
we leave it at that?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Is there anybody else who would like to come? You're welcome. Okay, then I go into something Maria from London wrote me. She said she had since January a bit difficulties with her voice. Came out quite coarse. I don't remember the word. Anyhow, it was often interfering with her capacity to communicate. So many times she didn't communicate where she usually would have. And actually, that has opened her eyes brought us few surprises that she saw that many times actually it would have been better not to say anything when she usually automatically, out of habit, just was saying her piece. Now, how to use that capacity to communicate wisely is basically the question. Again, it's good to be very alert, and whatever has happened or is happening with your voice has been a call that you become more aware how you are communicating, what is happening when you are communicating. And if that awareness comes, we become aware what mood in the communication actually is helpful, that brings more light, that brings more harmony, and what mood in the communication is not helpful, but creates more the sense of separation, which invariably always creates struggle and ultimately suffering. This is a very beautiful tool that we got, that we can use intelligent speech, that we can talk to each other, transmit ideas that the other person can understand what we are talking about. Unfortunately, that understanding very much is not there in spite of exchanging words, but it's a possibility of, on this level, connecting, make something beautiful out of it, something that helps to express beauty and creativity and harmony on this level. But of course, it can also express the exact opposite. It can express separation, egoism, hatred. And it's good that this has awakened you to be more alert about the speech. I hope your voice is getting better again and you can speak easier, but it's good to be alert that what is the motivation of how I'm using words. And then also, what are the words doing in the persons with whom I'm talking? Because it's good to be truthful, but we can be truthful and at the same time diplomatic. We don't have to bang our ideas on the others, but can serve them in such a way that there is more likely an openness that something beautiful can happen in this exchange. Like as you are with yourself, with your thoughts, learning to become more and more aware, learning to detach from lines of thoughts of which we know if I'm holding on to, they create more and more tension, they create pain, they create the sense of separation and disharmony and suffering. And other lines of thinking help to establish harmony, become more and more a real beautiful expression of your own inner essence. And what we are doing in our mind, with ourselves, with the thoughts, we can learn to do that more and more with our speech, with the words, with the people. And if we have the habit to be a bit rough unnecessarily, it's good that we can learn to sweeten up a bit. It's not necessary that we have to try desperately always to talk to please everybody. Be true to yourself. But at the same time, it's good to be aware that this is also a creative act to learn to express yourself in such a way that it's most likely to reach the people, that it's helpful. It gives the possibility for a harmonious creative exchange instead of banging our truth out in such a way that immediately the walls are coming up with the other people. See the motivation of the speech. Is it just to assert me as a personality? I'm right over you, you're wrong. And that's motivation. It always creates disharmony. Or is the motivation that really I want to express myself out of love? Out of a natural urge to express beauty, the inner beauty that can manifest in communication with other people, then something beautiful can grow out of it. As we learn to be more and more alert with our thoughts, what we are thinking, what we are doing to ourselves with our thoughts, what we are radiating with our thoughts, we can do the same thing with our speech. And if the habit is often to create rather conflict, there we can work on it. That we let go of that and turn it into a habit of creating harmony, of at least giving the possibility of a harmonious, creative, beautiful exchange. It may not always work. The people with whom we are dealing may not be ready for it, but then you are at peace with yourself because you know you didn't unnecessarily create tension and fight. Sometimes it's perfectly well to insist on a certain point if we feel it is right, it's what needs to be. But if the basic intention is right, then something beautiful can also come out of that. If the basic intention is more always to assert my personality, to make sure that I'm right, that I'm in the power position, that I'm something, then there we have work to do and can learn to give that up. Then it's a misuse of that beautiful opportunity to communicate. Instead of creating love and harmony and expansion of experience and consciousness, it creates separation, it creates contraction of the experience, and that always leads to suffering. Okay, I dropped the subject, and then I'm asking you, my friends, is there anybody who would like to come? I see. Hello, Andreas.
Hello, Werner. How much, should I focus on being aware of my body, like experientially? And how is that different from just being or being aware of the essence?
Being aware of the body is a very good means to touch the essence. Because if you are aware of the body, it's now. It's not something that you remember, not something that you imagine. You bring the attention through the awareness of the body in the present, but then relax, don't get stuck on the physical level. If you can just be in beingness, relaxed, at ease, at peace, you need maybe not resort to the help of being aware of the body. And it's also just one way. I mean, there are other means to bring the attention to the present. To be aware of the body sensations, to be aware of the breath is a very efficient way, but then we can use it as a means. And in that relaxation then of that body awareness, automatically you're starting to touch more that beingness. Then it stops to be a contradiction to be aware of your body and be in beingness. But if you just can relax and be at ease, at peace, in pure beingness, then you can also skip the body awareness part.
I find it quite interesting. Like yesterday, I just thought about that, like my ideas about my body are very different from like my actual experience. Like this.
Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah, I mean, my ideas of it is just like my body as a whole. But if I look into it, then I mean, there's no picture of my body. There's just like energies, and or right now there's a lot of in the last week, a lot of times there's just like a very nervous energy in me that I don't know where it's coming from, and it's not so pleasant to stay with that.
Right, right.
And actually, if I just look at my body, I mean, isn't there a connection to the question, who am I or what am I? Because like, I mean, if I just feel, I mean, there's no big body there. It's just a lot of sensations, or
Right.
like different sensations.
Right. I mean, the image, the visual image of the body, we have learned by looking in the mirror. After all, you don't know your face except by looking in the mirror or on pictures. So being aware of the body doesn't mean that you are doing a form meditation on your body, like Rupa Dhyanam, like a devotee who has the form of the deity and fixes the ideas on that form and learns to see that form. It's being aware of the body is not that you start to see your image, how you are appearing to the eyes, but right, you feel instead of a physicality, you feel it's just a bundle of energies and sensations. And that the bundle of energy and sensations is it's made possible by the life, by the prana that is always there. And if you are watching the body sensations, you become more and more aware of the prana. And being aware of the prana is like being aware of consciousness. They are both equally expansive.
And what to do with that nervous energy? Just like watch and observe it and be with it?
If it helps you, then you also include the awareness of the breath. And then you are aware of that nervous energy, but at the same time, breathe gently and as relaxedly as you can. And then most likely, the nervousness of the energy is settling down and it becomes calmer.
Yeah, I always want to investigate it, but when I start to really look at it, or like even especially when I start breathing, it quickly disappears. So I can't investigate.
And then you think, oh, what a pity that the nervous energy has gone.
Yeah, but as soon as I stop with that, like meditational practice, then the nervous energy comes back.
I see. Yeah. And it disturbs your experience.
It feels a little bit unpleasant, or just like it feels a little bit neurotic. I mean, why I'm just like nervous sitting in my home.
Right. Right. Of course, it's naturally you are at ease, at peace, in harmony. And if there is a nervous tension there, then it's somehow falling out of that naturalness. And of course, we don't like it. We like to be natural. Whether we are conscious of liking to be natural or not, everybody likes to be natural. Then you can put your attention on the energy, and if it disappears, then let it go. Don't run after it and try to investigate. And if it's coming back, you look at it again. And if it goes, then gradually it may go like that.
Okay.
Yes. We don't have to analyze everything out and think I have to somehow pass everything through the processors in my brain in order to deal with it constructively.
Well, that's one of my habits that I really like.
If you want, you can try to figure out, and if you come up with answers and it helps you to let it go, fine. They may be right or they may not be right, but you don't need to analyze. So if you look at it and it disappears, then don't feel, oh, I have to hold on to in order to analyze it. Then let it go. And when it comes back and disturbs you again, then you put your attention again and relax. And if it simply goes, let it go.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Again.
You're welcome. Hari Om, Hari Om,
Hari.
Hari Om. Is there anybody else who would like to say something? You're welcome. What Andreas just said, it's touching something that is a habit, especially of us Western people, because we have grown up thinking we have to analyze everything, having the idea, then we are always somehow on top of the situation, that we are in control. It's an illusion. All this analyzing is not putting us in control, but it gives that momentary feeling. I understand, and in that understanding, I'm in control. Sometimes analyzing is okay. Analyzing the situation, certain things that are creating tensions in the mind, the analyzing may be helpful, coming closer to the source where it has been created, and then it may make it easier to let it go. But it's not that we have to think that we have to analyze everything in order to resolve the issue. Then it's just becoming a habit, and instead of being helpful, it creates more tensions again, more problems. Use the intellect where it's appropriate, and when it's not necessary, we can just put it like any tool that we don't need aside at its place, ready to be picked up again when it's necessary, but not that we think we have to process everything through our intellect. Sometimes there are problems. We feel what it is doing to our experience. We connect with them. We connect with the experience, connect with the tension, we relax, and it totally disappears, and there is no need that we know more about it. I see you have come back, Andreas. You have anything more to say about it?
I mean, I find it helpful to eliminate my mistakes in practice.
Mhm.
Like I learn more and more that what makes my practice difficult is all the wrong ideas I have about it.
Mhm.
I mean, especially coming from Buddhist practice, I think in the beginning I had lots of very wrong ideas in my mind, and sometimes it helps me to analyze what I'm doing or listening to you or other teachers, and then I understand better what to do. Because this essence that you're talking about, it just like wasn't in my awareness for a very, very long time.
Well, maybe at that time they were not wrong ideas. They helped you there to make the steps that you needed to make. And now you come to a point that you don't have to hold on to certain ideas that may have been helpful at a certain time because they become more of a hindrance. And then understanding this, of course, that is helpful. Then you can let that go. I'm not saying all understanding is wrong. Understanding a lot of processes is very helpful if it helps us to let go what is unnecessary. If we create more and more and more constructions because of our intellect, then it's becoming more and more of a burden. But if we understand certain mechanisms, and that helps us to let go, because it has become a burden and we need not carry that burden with us, then that understanding, of course, is very helpful.
I mean, for me, it was quite helpful that like a lot of the spiritual teaching is about like disidentification with the body, right?
Yes.
And before I was very much identified and always, I mean, the asking of who am I, in the beginning, I didn't understand. I mean, I'm not doing it so much, but I understand it's like, yeah, I was very much identified with my body and caught up in a very materialistic viewpoint. And this understanding, I think, is helpful.
Right. But understanding whatever prevents you from being in your natural expansive state is helpful. To let go, to get rid of those obstacles. Then when we want to understand what reality is, then it becomes difficult. Then that becomes an obstacle. But the understanding the mechanisms that stand in our way, that create unnecessary troubles and tensions, that understanding certainly is helpful. Right.
Thank you.
But right now, what you said before, you feel that there is a nervous energy, and then when you put your attention to it, then actually it disappears. And then I felt there was like a little regret that it has gone, that you cannot analyze it and understand it. And there you need not necessarily, unnecessarily actually run after it and try to understand. If all that is needed, that nervous energy disappears, that you have a good look at it and relax, then by all means let it be like that. And don't create a new tension by thinking, but I don't understand it. You need not understand it. If it's gone and doesn't disturb, then fine.
But sometimes a small insight comes. I think that it has to do something that with the ideas, maybe sometimes that I'm wasting my life, that I'm not like not spending too much time with like spiritual practice, and that like I'm missing the essential things, and this nervousness might be a pointer to that just that idea came to me. Okay.
As I said, any understanding that helps you to let go is helpful. Any understanding that we think is understanding, but actually it's creating more constructions that after that become another new burden to carry, that is not helpful, and we better let that go of that.
Okay, I hear you.
Yes. Fine. I'm sure you do. Hari Om. Hari Om.
Are you?
Just want to see what the message is. How not to become like the owner of somebody in a relationship. Sometimes it hurts. It can only happen if I'm firmly identifying with the role that I'm playing. Me, I, that person. The more I identify with that, the more I'm creating that sense of separation, me and the other. And then, of course, the tendency is for most of the people that me, I want to be in control. I'm the one who's giving the directions. Or going to that point of, I want to be the owner. Of course, nobody can be the owner of anybody else, but the feeling can be there and can be very painful for both parties. The important thing is to remind ourselves, this person I'm identifying with is just a temporary role that I'm playing. The more I'm aware, it's just a role that I'm playing in a theater. But I'm prior to that. The less then these personal little games are important. Then in a partnership, those little power games that often happen, they have no more meaning because this is just a role that I'm playing. I'm not necessary, need not define my self-worth by being in control of the situation. Basically, it comes out of insecurity, of not feeling enough self-worth, and then hoping to increase that feeling of self-worth by being on control, not only of myself, but also of others, that I'm the one who gives directions, I'm the boss. The more you can remind yourself and be aware, I'm not this person, the more you can be aware. This also the other person, the partner, the family, the community, the nation, whole humanity, they are all also just playing roles. They may have forgotten, but they are not these persons. And the point of being here is not to play all those power games with people, but to be self-aware. And when we are aware that we are doing it, then we can put the brake and intend of detaching from it. And as we have been talking about habits, habits have their own power. Even if we decide not to do so out of habit, we still may act again and again in the old grooves, but if the awareness is there, then every time we become aware, okay, I did it again, in spite of my better intention, just because I was carried away by the habit, but then I can renew the intention again, make it stronger. I need not act like this. I am what I am. Prior to this person, I'm complete. I'm that divine being. I don't need to create an artificial sense of self-worth by controlling my outer situation. And it never stops. It's never enough. If we are going down that alley, that controlling, trying to be the owner, it's never enough. And can try to control just a partnership, a relationship, control a family, control a community, control a nation, control the humanity. People try to do that. Accumulate more and more wealth, trying to be the owners of the whole wealth in the world, trying to be in control of people, trying to create that artificial sense of self-worth, and it will never be enough because it's an illusion. You are not that person. And instead of making the experience more expensive, the more one goes into that owning and controlling obsession, the smaller the experience becomes. The more the experience is contracted on a very pitiful material level. So if we see those tendencies in a partnership, in ourselves, then every time we become aware, oh, I'm starting to play those power games, I need not, I can relax. We can put the breakers. Or even if it has happened and we become aware, oh, got me again, then I need not go on and think about it in a way to justify that I'm right to do so, but oh no. There I acted again in ways that don't, it's clear, they bring no harmony, they bring pain, they bring suffering, they bring the sense of separation. If we see the tendency in a partnership with our partner, then we can learn not to feel personally a victim of it, just not play along with it. We can also point it out, see, what you're doing is a power game, it's not necessary. Let us be two conscious living beings who live their life together and support each other in expanding our experience instead of making our experience smaller by trying to control, by trying to own. If the partner who has that habit of trying to be in control is open and sees what is going on, then mutually you can help each other to free yourself from those mechanisms. If the partner is not open, then somehow you deal with it in such a way that you simply don't let it happen. And if then the partnership is not more possible, then so be it. But if we see it in ourselves, we can really sincerely intend, no, I stopped it, I need not do so. I'm here to unfold my experience, to become expansive, and to hold on to that kind of behavior of wanting to own somebody is definitely not expanding the consciousness, but making it smaller, contracting my experience. And everything that contracts consciousness will ultimately lead to suffering. But nobody wants to suffer because it's unnatural. Our natural state is to be joyous, is to be harmonious, is to be open for expansion with a curiosity, an innocence, like a child. Okay, I hope your question has been answered. There's a little more time. If somebody wants to come in and say something, you are welcome to do so. You are welcome.
Yeah, I have another, I think, small question about infinity or endless. The expression that I feel maybe we tend to use it. No, I'll say about my experience this week, because I'm taking a specific course, and we keep using this infinity or endless.
Yes.
And this week I realized that it's not this specific thing is, it's only the very moment. When we say it's endless or infinite, I feel when I say it's like I'm not really together about here and now. I'm not really here and now. I leave something for the benefit of the doubt, or for future, this future called infinity. It was so clear to me. No, it's not infinite. It's only now.
Yes.
You understand what I mean?
Right. It depends how we are using words. When we're talking about time and talk about infinity, we think of an endless tomorrow that goes on forever and ever. But that real infinity is now. It's prior to time. It's timeless. And it's infinite because it doesn't fit in any finite experience or concept.
Yeah.
But don't try to understand infinity, because understanding is finite and cannot possibly grasp that enormity. The understanding that the infinity is not simply an endless succession of tomorrows and that never stops, but actually it's prior to time. That understanding is helpful, but that's as far as understanding can help. And then there is just the opening of the heart to that infinity.
I felt that I've been using infinity to express, actually, when I can't hold duality. When they're like, when I really feel the duality, it's this and also that. And then I continue, it's infinite. I also noticed other people do it in this specific course, because we study this, whatever.
If it helps you to connect with that timelessness, anything that helps is fine. Anything that rather pulls you away, then you can question whether it's worth the trouble. But if it helps you to connect, perfect, right?
No, it doesn't. It's the opposite. I noticed that it does the opposite.
Yeah.
I just noticed this week that it actually does the opposite.
Then you either can continue and playfully go about it as a entertainment and learn to do the opposite, not being carried away by the words and the concepts, but use the words and the concepts in such a way that you connect. Or then if you feel it's getting just useless, then maybe you drop it.
Yeah. No, you touched another subject, so we leave it for next time.
Okay.
Or we touched together. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And let us leave it with that. Okay, Hari Om, Hari Om. I started today by saying it's good to remember what we are here for. Let me round up our today's satsang by coming back to that. Whatever we are doing all alone by ourselves, what we are doing in a relationship, what we are doing in a family, in a society, in a group of people, looking for something, trying to find knowledge, let us always remember what we are here for. We have come here because this human appearance is a great opportunity to very powerfully become self-aware. And if we are remembering this, then we can do anything and it becomes helpful. And if something is becoming too much of a distraction, we can learn to let that go and just pass on. In that increasing self-awareness, we become aware that there is such a joyousness simply there in existence. Essentially, it's that is simply there, but the experience of it can become more and more powerful and more expensive. And our human appearance is a great opportunity to be more aware of that. I wish you all well. Hari Om, Hari Om, Hari Om.